That's funny.
Gonna unmute the stream, alright.
Oh my.
I'm on RPG now. Alright, so what's up everyone? Just get this all set up. We kind of have to display like the options that we're setting even though the timer doesn't start yet. So had to wait for all of that. Timer starts on selecting the character that you're gonna play. So we've got to skip through a few text boxes here and then we'll start the show. Alright, so 3, 2, 1, go. Alright, what's up everyone? This is Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep Final Mix High Definition Terra Story Critical Mode Level 1 any %, and I am IamGrig. I will be your speed space runner for this evening. So, starting off the show, we're going to be doing Orbs, which you will have seen in the previous run, but essentially the way Orbs work is you have to either damage them until their health hits 0 or hit them into each other, and they will no longer be there. I don't know if die is the correct word, because I don't think they're really alive, but anyway. So that's the strategy for this fight. It's pretty random, and Terra kind of has a bad time of it, because he doesn't have a good shot lock at this point in the game. And shot locks help a lot with orbs. So I'm kind of just, you know, smacking them and hoping for the best, hoping for some help from my buddies, all that stuff. So there I tried to hit them into each other with Quick Blitz, but Aqua and Ven kind of got in the way a little bit, which is a pretty common occurrence. And then the lock-on system showed us why it's so great. Lock-ons are kind of bad in this game, they don't work very well. Another thing I should mention is that this is being played on the Kingdom Hearts 2.5 HD remix for the PlayStation 3. So yeah, that was Orbs. Pretty straightforward stuff. So onto this game's mechanics now that I have a nice block of cutscenes to work with for commentating. Essentially how this game works is you have a command deck, and I'm sure you will have all seen it in the previous run if you were watching, but just in case anyone missed it, I'm going to go through the basics. So you have a command deck, which is where you access all of your magic and attack skills and stuff like that. But rather than having a mana bar or something like that, like you would in, say, KH1 or KH2, you have cooldowns on all the commands. So it allows us to really have a very variable deck, I suppose, and, you know, set ourselves up well for each situation and never have to worry about resources too much. The downside is that it makes things pretty spammable, and so we often end up just spamming the same thing over and over again. So that's the basics of this game. What you're going to see me do here is dip into the menu and turn on EXP0. Basically, how this game works in Crit is you do the game at level 1 because EXP0 is so busted that it's faster than leveling up. And in this category, let me mash through some text here. I'm bad at talking while I'm mashing, I don't know why. But in this category, you get planted into a forced fight right off the bat as soon as you enter the world, so you have to do that menu before you enter the world, otherwise you're not going to do very much damage in this forced fight. In this forced fight, we will be going into Ventus's D-Link and killing things. We want to get a level up for the D-Link, which it's different from a normal level up. It's not experience-based, it's based on a random drop that comes from any enemy you kill. Ideally, I want to get 2 of those in this fight, but we'll just see how it goes. If I don't get any, I'm going to have to be doing some grinding after this. But that's RNG, you know. The thing that is in a lot of Kingdom Hearts speedruns that makes us all very frustrated and all that sort of stuff. So here I am intentionally not killing things or not using the finisher so that I could save it for that guy. And there I reverted because I got the D-Link for Ventus and I want to try and get the one for Aqua as well. It's pretty unlikely that I will at this point in the fight, but it's still worth going for because it's going to be a big help if I do. And I got the one that I absolutely needed, so that was kind of unlucky. They are going in on me today. Oh, that was unfortunate. I got the drop though, so that's really nice. So that was pretty much perfect RNG. The fight was kind of slow due to where I got the drops, but I got everything that I needed, so I couldn't ask for better in a marathon. Losing the time doesn't matter anywhere near as much as losing the safety of having those D-Links. So essentially, what D-Links are, I guess, in this game is D stands for dimensional. So the game's explanation is it's a link or a special bond that you share with your friends, your hearts are connected, yada yada yada. And basically, you can gain access to your friends' abilities and some of their combos and stuff. We're gonna see why that's so important coming into the next fight. Another thing you'll notice I'm doing a lot of is sliding whenever I move. The dodges are the fastest form of movement in this game, except for sliding dash, and in Terra's case, once his dodge level's up enough, it is faster than sliding dash. The disadvantage of Terra's movement, however, is that at level 4, he cannot spam it to get permanent invulnerability frames like the other characters. Because of this, and a few other reasons, Terra is considered to be the weakest character. In my opinion, the other characters are just overpowered and Terra is balanced, but I'm sure there are plenty of people who would debate that point. So, another thing to note about Terra versus the other characters is that he doesn't really have good ways of abusing level 1. So on level 1, EXP0 is kind of working how it's supposed to for Terra. You're just getting, damage scaling to where you do decent damage all throughout the game, never doing a lot of damage, never doing no damage. Whereas, if you were leveling up, you would have to probably be level 5 or something to do this amount of damage in this area, and then level 11 in the next area, so it would basically necessitate a bunch of grinding. And even then, you probably wouldn't really be doing more damage than what I am doing, you would just be doing the same. So coming up is Wheelmaster. Basically, how he works is he has a hit counter, and if you hit him enough times, you knock him down. And there's a bit of other stuff that I'll be doing, like manipulation of his patterns, but this is a fight that I really need to focus for, so I'm gonna let Zetris try and take over for a bit, and hopefully he can explain some of the nitty-gritty to you.
Okay, I'll do my best. I'll try and see it as it's going. I guess another thing that I do remember from this is, honestly, there's 1 or 2 points in the fight where once he hits a certain HP level, he'll kind of go berserk and push you away, and it does damage. And I think after the first time, it usually leads into his DM. We'll see that in a bit. I'll get to that. Right now, Greg's just trying to rack up as much damage as possible. As you can see, the finishing command is much stronger. That's EXP0 doing its thing. And there, Greg knew that the special HP gate was coming up, so he went away and used a strike raid to activate it from far away.
Perfect fight.
Nice. There you go.
So yeah, as Zetris mentioned, I knew the HP gate was coming up, so I moved away and did a strike raid because I didn't want to take any more hits. The reason I didn't want to take any more hits was so that I could dash into him while he was charging to end his charge as early as possible. So it's really all just about knowing how many hits you can take and working with that to kill him as fast as possible. So now we have Dwarf Woodlands. This is my least favorite world in the run by a pretty long way. Basically, all it comes down to is how good your RNG was in the first forced fight, and movement and a bunch of collection, and then some more RNG. It's a very random world in terms of how long it takes, but here we get to show you some really cool movement with Terra's shot lock. I'm gonna let the game speak for itself here, though. So yeah, obviously you're not supposed to be able to do that, but Terra's shot lock is a dive. You dive across the room to whatever you target, and it just so happens that there are these conveniently spawned pots in the area, so we can lock onto them with his shot lock and dive at them. We will, however, be taking that shot lock off after this world, because even though it's really useful for movement, it's only useful for movement in this world and isn't useful for combat at all. So, and the reason it's only useful for movement in this world is this is the only world where there are things spawned in all throughout the area, even when you first move in. In other worlds, things don't spawn in until you get close to them, and it's generally only enemies. So, here we have some sliding dash movement. Essentially, sliding dash just acts like you're on the ground and goes in a straight line. So we're going to be using that to get fish and Viraga. And then we have the first shop menu. You'll notice I picked up a lot of chests along my way. Most of them were to sell, some of them I needed. We have a really, tight shop, money route. There we go. That's what I was looking for. I couldn't find the words. My foot was stuck in my mouth. So here I need to buy a blizzard and a poison. I'm gonna make sure I didn't sell anything that I need. Yeah, okay, I didn't. Good. So this is when where the Aqua D-Link is gonna come into play, the level that I got before. Basically, what level 1 gives you is Magnera. It gives you a couple of other things as well, but the big one is Magnera. Without Magnera, this fight becomes really, really slow and incredibly risky. So the fact that I have that here essentially means that I shouldn't die as long as I don't mess up. Whereas without it, it's very easy for the game to just mess with you and kill you. You don't have much say in the matter. So really all this is me trying to manipulate enemies in whatever way possible and use Magnet Thunder and finish on them. It's the breakdown of this fight. Here I'm actually going to waste a little bit of time to collect that floating thing. So now I have D-Link level 2, which is really good. Essentially perfect RNG. I didn't actually use that finisher very well there, but doesn't matter too much. Oof, that's not good. So this is the big one that level 2 gives you. It gives you Mind Square, which is like a big wall that enemies can't get past. There we go. That was kinda slow, but I'll take it. I didn't die. If I don't die at all in this run, but I play really slowly, I'll be happy with that, in all honesty. So now we have all of the D-Links that we could possibly want for the run, which is really nice. Coming up, we have the Magic Mirror fight, so I will be doing a little bit more Sonic Shadow movement, along with just general sliding throughout the level. But other than that, it's Magic Mirror. Magic Mirror is RNG, essentially. He has 4 different attacks that he can use, and there is some degree of consistency to it. He has 2 attacks where he will move across the screen, and 2 attacks where he will create, I guess, mirror images of himself that you can't hit. And he'll always use one of one type and then one of the other type, and so on until he's used all of his attacks. Ideally speaking, we get what I call side to side, followed by hallway. That is the perfect pattern for this fight, and if I play that correctly, I should be able to kill him there. But failing that, I should also, like, no matter what he does, be able to kill him before he gets past all four of those attacks and goes into his desperation move type thing. The basic strategy for this fight is to just keep poison on him as much as possible. Damage over time does set damage that I believe is based on the amount of health the enemy has, and it doesn't matter what difficulty you're playing on or anything like that, it's always the same. So obviously for bosses in level 1 crit, it's very useful. So, okay, we got hallway. That's not bad by any means. It's not perfect, but it's definitely not bad either. Hopefully this is side to side. It is side to side. Okay, good. Okay, that's unfortunate. I didn't count my hits correctly. So, there's a bit of time loss there because I messed up. I should have been able to kill him there, but I didn't. It's all good though, I'll kill him here. Definitely not a perfect fight, but I'll take it. So again, Magic Mirror did have a hit counter, and after hitting him a certain number of times, you knock him down, etc. I got pretty much perfect RNG there, but I just didn't react to it properly. I counted my hits wrong, so I didn't knock him down at the right time. But it's no matter. Again, I didn't die, so I'm content. Here we actually have to revisit Dwarf Woodlands, because the shop levels up every time you beat a boss, and what that essentially means is that you get access to more commands in the shop. And there are certain commands that only unlock after killing 2 bosses that I need before the forced fight that goes, like, that you do straight after entering the next world. So I need to buy commands here, rather than in the next world. So here I sell all of these things, and then buy 2 thunders and 2 magnets. I knew there was something else. I always forget this. So here I need to switch Sonic Shadow to Flame Salvo. And I'm also going to switch Aqua's D-Link finisher to the level 1 finisher for the sake of consistency. The level 2 finisher is actually quicker in all applicable situations. However, it's harder to use and thus less consistent. So here we're going to be following the theme for forced fights of go into Aqua D-Link, Magnet Thunder finish, use Mind Square when applicable. That's pretty much how we're going to handle most of the forced unversed fights from here on. Which I should mention, from my understanding of the lore, I'm pretty sure Unversed are supposed to be like an ancient predecessor to Shadows, or Heartless rather, or something along those lines. But don't quote me on that. I don't pay a huge amount of attention to this game's lore, or any of the Kingdom Hearts games' lore for that matter. So, coming up after this, we have an Escort mission. Everyone knows how much escort missions suck in every video game. They're never really fun. This game's no exception. However, this is probably, if not definitely, the easiest escort mission this game has to offer. Essentially, Cinderella is walking or running, as long as there aren't enemies in front of her. Whether she walks or runs is random, so that's an element of the escort that kinda sucks. But other than that, it's fairly consistent and straightforward. Basically, I'm going to be trying to put enemies into magnets and then either using thunder or finishes, kill them before she gets to them. I also need to push some of the enemies into the magnets, which you should hopefully see me do as long as I don't mess it up. But it's kind of difficult. You kind of just nudge them towards it with Terra's hitbox. It's a weird strategy. Okay. He's gonna go underground. That's unfortunate. So there is a chance that you miss that shadow with the first magnet. If that happens, he's most likely gonna go underground. Not really much you can do about it at that point. But, you know, what can you do? Marathon luck, am I right? Another thing is, I'm being very careful to avoid command styles as much as possible, because every time you load into a command style, you lose time, because Cinderella stops moving. And the only command style I can go into at the moment is Firestorm, due to my command deck. So I'm just trying to not use the fire commands unless I already have the finisher built up. Here we have a little bit more RNG. Depending on what these three bruisers do, depends on how this goes. Ideally, they'll just start running at me straight away and get caught in a magnet. But that doesn't seem to be the case. So that wasn't horrible RNG, but it definitely wasn't good RNG either. Ooh, a fire drop. Ugh, I accidentally used fire there, so as you could see when I went into the command style, it wasted time because it loaded in, and during that load, Cinderella wasn't moving. So that's what I was talking about. That was a mistake on my end. So there I intentionally spawned those enemies in late so that I would kill them with that cutscene finisher for the chance it drops. Which it didn't sound like I got any of. You can tell if you got them because you'll hear the sound of Terra collecting them in the light screen. But I didn't get any there from what I heard.
And what's the drops that you would have gotten?
Either binds or fleeting crystals, which crystals are used in melds, which I'll talk about when I'm doing them. Bind, right. Ideally I would get at least one, but really, for the most part, binds are just money stuff. So if you get a bind drop, it saves you the money of buying one. And if you get more than that, you can sell them. But I have gotten a lot of miscellaneous drops of various commands, so I should have plenty of money for the early game of the run. So here, I'm gonna sell everything that I don't need. And then buy a bind and a thunder. Where's bind? I know it's in magic somewhere. There it is. The bind is a new addition to the menu, so I'm not entirely used to it yet. So here we have Symphony Master. He's very similar to Wheelmaster in what we do. We go into Vendilink and use his level 1 ability, Haste, to just X-attack him really fast with the Keyblade. There is some manipulation that I'm going to be trying to do to skip a cycle that he does at the end, but I'm not entirely sure how to explain it, to be honest. And it's probably not even going to work because it's pretty tight. but he doesn't have a hit counter. He gets knocked down at the end of a command style finisher. So that's how that works. So hopefully that was correct damage. Wasn't correct damage. So yeah, essentially what I was talking about was manipulation to skip that jump. But I didn't damage him the right amount, so it didn't work. It's basically about getting him to the exact right amount of health before you do the second finisher, so that, you know, you still knock him down and he doesn't jump. But I didn't quite do it correctly there, so it's unfortunate. Doesn't save a huge amount of time, and again, it's very difficult to explain because it involves, like, HP ranges and stuff like that. So here we're going to be doing a bunch of melds. How melds work is you combine one command with another command to get a new command that is a combination of the two you combined. So for instance, 2 thunders equals a thundara, 2 cures equals a cura, and stuff like that. Then you have some wonky melds that, you know, don't really make sense, like, what's an example? Arrow plus cure equals cura, and, you know, other weird things. And then another thing that happens in melds is you have crystals, which can give abilities to the melds. So for instance here, I'm going to put a pulsing crystal into this Blizzara to give me Leaf Bracer. And then a soothing into this Thundara to give me HP boost. And then I will no-meld the Magnera and get Cure Boost. Okay, that doesn't really help me, but I'll take it. And bind. Ah, I almost forgot another part of a menu. I'm not good at remembering menus. I know what I need, but I always forget small parts of them. Just a bad habit, I suppose. So the other thing to note with melds is you need the commands that you're melding together to be at the right level. So, for instance, to do the Magnera meld, you need the magnets to be level 2. And here, I'm going to be trying to get a bind to level 3, so that I can meld bind with fire to get ignite. Which is one of the melds that actually kind of does make sense, because fire is obviously fire, and ignite is a fire damage over time spell that's targetable, or whatever. So you think about it, bind, you know, attach fire to someone, fire damage over time, it kind of makes sense. A lot more than some of the other things in this game do anyway. So after this set of cutscenes, we'll be going into Radiant Garden. Now, at the start of Radiant Garden, there is a forced fight, which, all according to plan, will be the last time that we see Aqua's D-Link. So it served its purpose, but after that, in any of the forced fights, I'll have 2 Magneras of my own, and at that point, it is faster to just use your own commands and ignore Aqua completely. I think I've finally explained most of the game.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, it only took me half an hour. So now that I'm done explaining the basics of the game, well, I have a bit of time in this forced fight, which is, again, Magnet, Thunder, Finisher, Mind Square, Magnet, Thunder, Finisher, Mind Square. Not necessarily in that order, gonna take a bit of time to talk about myself, how I first came into the Kingdom Hearts community, that sort of thing. Keep you guys entertained. Ooh, that was really unlucky. I've actually never seen that happen before. That's, like, he attacked me pretty much immediately. That's insane. Okay, let's just talk about that shadow for a moment, why don't we? That guy was a bloody legend. I've never seen the... Wow. Can we get clappers in the chat? Jeez. That's crazy. Alright, so, back on the topic I was originally going to talk about. Sorry, I got distracted there. So, I've been speedrunning for about 3 years now. I started in early 2014 to late 2013, somewhere around that time. And, I started off with Jak and Daxter, but I actually watched Kingdom Hearts 2 speedruns first. I watched Headstrong 1290 speedrun this game, and or speedrun Kingdom Hearts 2 rather. I always, you know, considered trying it for myself one day. And I tried Kingdom Hearts 2, and I never really liked it. There was just something about it that didn't feel fun to me. I discovered that in these games I'm much more of a fan of the critical mode speedruns, because I like a speedrun where the difficulty isn't in optimizing the run and, you know, grinding the frames or whatever, getting all the strats right. The difficulty is more in not stuffing up and losing a bunch of time. So in this game's case, not dying. And in most of the cases of the games that I've run, not dying. So eventually I found this game, and this is the main Kingdom Hearts game that I've speedrun in my time in this community. Recently, I've also been speedrunning Ninja Gaiden Black, which is a really fun action hack-and-slash game. I've done some Crash 2, I've hopped around various communities, and I have to say, the Kingdom Hearts community is a really nice place for the most part. There's a lot of people, we've covered just about every Kingdom Hearts game under the sun. It's a really good place to be. So if you're ever considering doing a Kingdom Hearts speedrun for yourself, but you're worried that, you know, people might not accept you, or you don't know where to begin, don't worry about it. Just talk to someone. Anyone in the community knows just about anyone else in the community, so I'm sure they'd be happy to point you in the right direction for whatever game or category you're interested in running. So here, I'm doing a little bit of excess grinding. I'm killing a couple of waves to make sure my bind hits level 3. And there it is there. I'm also going to be killing these hourglass waves so that I get money and a chance at a specific drop that I want. I magnet those guys so that they can't kill me while I'm trying to open chests, because they have a tendency to do that. So yeah, as mentioned before, money is really tight in this this category. You have a really strict money route. You need enough money for, you know, everything. It has been improved recently, but it's definitely still somewhat stringent. So I really need to be careful with my money, I suppose. Good lesson for real life, really. So here we have that fire bind meld that I was talking about earlier. I guess I'll put a pulsing crystal on it. I don't know what... No, I have 2 leaf braces now. That's pretty cool. I should have no-melded it probably, but I didn't know what that would do. Because I wanted to put HP boost on that Thundara. There's a reason for that, but... So yeah, now we have Ignite, the damage over time spell that I mentioned earlier. If I can remember my own menu for this. There we go, that looks right. So, coming up, we have Trinity Armor. Trinity Armor is the only boss that all 3 characters fight the exact same boss in the exact same place, with the exact same conditions, pretty much. So you're gonna have your other 2 party members there with you, and Terra actually has a pretty good time of this fight. Ventus rather, probably has the hardest Trinity Armor, and Aqua has the easiest Trinity Armor, which she kind of has the easiest everything. She's a little bit overpowered in level 1. Yeah, so the idea here is that I need to break the pieces as quickly as possible, especially the legs. And how I'm going to try to achieve that is go into Firestorm and use the Firestorm finisher a few times. Firestorm is one of the few finishes that Terra gets access to that can kind of abuse level 1, because how level 1 works with command style finishes is it always does a certain amount of damage per hit, and so anything with a lot of hits does a lot of damage, and Firestorm has a lot of hits, but it's also really hard to aim, so it doesn't work in a lot of fights. This, however, is one where it does work pretty well. So there you saw just how much damage it does. Yeah, it's pretty strong. Unfortunately, I actually messed up there. I was supposed to have another Firestorm in the works, but that doesn't matter too much for this point of the fight. As long as I then get one for the next part, it's fine. So now he's gonna go into the middle and shoot a big laser. The strategy to avoid the laser is to stand on his shadow and not lock onto him. I also want to be really careful of what commands I use and when, because if I use the wrong thing, like Thunder Surge, I'll just send myself straight into the laser. Alright, and that's a kill. I could have Firestormed earlier there, but I always like to play it safe and wait for him to start spinning, just to make sure I get enough damage in.
Terra!
So, coming up after this, we're going to have another shop, which is the main place where the newish additions to the route, like the Ignite that I just melded, which is actually new, make a change. Because normally here I would have to buy 2 Ignites, but instead I only have to buy 1, which saves a whopping 600 money. So that allows me to guarantee myself all the commands that I need, and if I've done really well on money, actually buy something extra on top of that. And then we will do some more melds and head over to the Break fight. So, sell Fish and Faraga, don't need that anymore. Sell Blackout. I'll sell one of those balloon letters, but I'll want one later, so I might as well keep the other, and sell my cure. I can buy another one later. So, here I want to buy an Ignite, Magnera, and I don't quite have enough money for the other thing, but that's fine, because I also need to buy a block. You would think, why do I need to buy a block when I already have one? You actually can't meld commands with block when you only have the one block that you have equipped, because the game doesn't want to allow you to unequip block for whatever reason. Oh, and command deck itself, of course. Okay, so we're all set up for Brig. How Brig is going to work is I need to spam Ignites as much as possible to keep him, you know, taking damage over time. And not get hit, basically, and reflect shots at him, because he's going to be firing a lot of shots. It's a really tricky fight. I would like to say that it's random, but that's not really true. How much damage you do is kind of random, but if you die, it's always your fault. It's really tricky, though. Like, one slight mistake can kill you, so I really do need to, you know, get everything done perfectly here. So to start off with, he's going to be in his DM. He'll be at the top of the room shooting at me. If I reflect 2 shots at him, it will break him out of the DM. And there's actually kind of a specific position in the arena you want to stand to block the shots back at him. For whatever reason, where you're standing makes a difference, because one of the things that makes Terra weak is his guard has a really small, area of effect. It kind of covers the front of him, and that's it. So you can get hit on the head, you can get hit from the sides, you can get hit on your feet. It kinda sucks. Okay, he went up in the air first. That's actually good. So there, that jump ignite is the most consistent way of dodging that attack he does at the end. You kind of have to know it's coming, though. And save your ignite for it. Okay, he's doing this. So this is kinda slow, but I'm not dying, so that's the important thing. Because ideally you can finish him in that DM there. But obviously... Oh, okay. I didn't expect him to do that. I miscalculated his patterns, I guess you could say. Usually what would have happened there is he would have gone straight into the next attack, and I just assumed he was gonna do that when he teleported, but I was wrong. So, that's what I mean about one slight mistake killing you here. Obviously that's a pretty bad mistake to make, because this fight is kinda long, but I have allowances for deaths in my estimate. I never expected I would go deathless in this run for even a second. So that's what I was talking about block not always working. Fortunately, you can get away with it not working once in his DM. Wow, I did it again. So, he's kind of throwing me for a loop here, because there's usually a certain number of times he'll do attacks in each pattern, and he keeps doing one more than what I expect. So I need to stop, expecting things, I guess, and just start reacting to what he does. If I was in an actual attempt, I wouldn't do that. I would just, do what I expect and try to go fast and then reset if I died. But since this is a marathon, I'm gonna need to start thinking about consistency more, I suppose. But it's just kind of reflex that I've built up from running the game so much. So, go against my better instincts, I guess, is the thing I have to do here. This is one of the fights where I kind of expected I would die at least once, though, so I'm not too upset about this. That was almost bad. Alright, the next thing I hit him with should kill. There we go, got through it. Okay, that was unfortunate, but again, I'm not too upset. I kind of expected something along those lines. Whew. Now that that's over, we get to have a lot of fun. This is probably the best part of the whole run. I hope everyone here likes Mario Kart, and I especially hope everyone here likes a watered-down, less complex, less fun version of Mario Kart that essentially works out to be an auto-scroller within maybe 1 or 2 seconds of variance per run. Because that's what you've got in store for you, my good friends. Yeehaw. What an entertaining speed space run, am I right? So, we're 45 minutes into the run, and it seems I've finally run out of things to talk about. Damn. I thought I'd last a little longer than this.
You know, that's not always a bad thing.
But I have to entertain the chat, Zetris. You don't understand.
You're right, I don't understand.
How will they enjoy this amazing speed space run if I am not constantly blessing them with my magnificent voice?
Right.
I'm gonna take this pause in entertaining commentary to shamelessly plug the Goonathon, which is supposedly going to be happening sometime in April. A group of my friends and me are going to be doing a marathon of sorts. Twitch.tv/Goonathon if you want to check that out. Also, reminder to follow both me and Zetris on Twitch for more amazing speed space runs. Haha yeehaw. So, one thing to note in this is if you get hit by those tornadoes, it's bad. They are on somewhat set cycles, I suppose, but it's kind of random as well, because you do have, like, a slight variance in your movement, I suppose. Like, you can lose a second throughout the whole thing just to bad pathing. So losing that extra, you know, 0.2 seconds or whatever between laps could put them on different cycles and stuff like that. Another thing to note is that the enemies rubber band a lot. Like, you have a speed cap, and so do they, but if you're ahead of them, they lose their speed cap. However, in the 5th lap, they get speed capped to even slower than how fast you go. So if you want to watch them on the minimap and see how fast they're going, watch them rubber band a little bit, all that kind of stuff. And then once I get to lap 5, watch them immediately slow down. I always find that rather interesting. So even if you're losing on lap 5, it's pretty easy to still win. But obviously, because I'm taking the shortcut and pathing quickly, even with their extra speed on me, they're not keeping up. But then as soon as they hit lap 5, they're going to slow down immensely. As you can see, my, you know, couple of meters of lead or whatever has turned into half a lap of lead because of lap 5's speed cap thing. So that was an average Rumble racing. I usually hit the high 201s, and I hit the high 201s. I think my average is 201.73, and that was 201.91, so... Oh no, I lost 0.18 of a second to my average. I better reset the run, right, guys? Haha.
Come on, get it together.
Yeah, I'm embarrassing the entire community right now, to be honest. So here, as mentioned earlier, I'm going to be using not Aqua Dealing for a forced fight, because now that I have 2 Magneras, it's no longer beneficial to do so. So instead, I will be using magnets and thunders of my own, and also jumping and hitting them while they're caught in magnets, because when they're caught in magnets, doing that actually does a surprising amount of damage. And then on top of that, Terra's default finisher is actually pretty good. Does a fair bit of damage if used correctly on enemies caught in a magnet. And there we go. That's that forced fight done and dusted. So as you can see, even though Aqua's commands and stuff are really good, the fact that I can have such good uptime on my own magnets makes doing that superior at this point in the run. The moment you have two magnets, you're better off just staying as Terra and not using Aqua D-Link. Now we have 10 rounds. This is the first point in the run where I can get killed purely by RNG completely out of my control, which is on the 10th round, and if that happens, I have to start the whole thing again. So that sucks, quite obviously, but we'll get through it. So here I sell my Fyra, and I buy a Blizzara. Nothing too special. And then I want to equip both Blizzaras to make sure they get enough experience by the end of the run. I press down. So something this game likes to do is eat your inputs when you're in menus. The reason for that is you aren't able to input the moment the menus pop up, so you kind of need to delay the down inputs a little bit, which kind of sucks. Makes it really easy to fail cutscene skips and the such. So here again, Magnet Thunder, you know, the usual sort of stuff. All of the opening rounds are quite easy, but the final round is not really up to me to control. So I'm just gonna go through these and hope that I don't get screwed by the final round. This is also a really good place in the run to make money. If you get lucky with your drops, you can make a lot of money here. The money, like just raw money drops, are completely constant for every enemy, but the enemies can drop commands and such that we can sell later on. So obviously, ideally, we want them to drop as many as possible, but with the new route, if they don't, it's not really the end of the world. You don't need many money drops with the new routing to get everything you need. That's unfortunate. I missed this guy with the magnet. Hey, a fleeting crystal drop. That would have been nice about 40 minutes ago. Okay, I got all of them. I thought I didn't for some reason. So, round 10. Basically, these guys can attack me before I can react, but they didn't, so we're safe. Jellies are really, really deadly in this game. But we got through it. The strategy is to just slide immediately and then magnet, because you're safe under a magnet, and slide is the fastest way you can get iframes for any amount of time. But they can swarm you right at the start or after your slide and kill you before you have a chance to react. Fortunately, that didn't happen here. So here we have Zac 1. Zac 1 is keep your distance, spam ignites, and shot lock to kill, because you can't kill a boss with damage over time. It has to be a hit of some sort. There is a newer strat for this fight, but I haven't had enough time to practice it, and or don't find it to be easy/consistent enough to do it, to want to do it in a marathon run. I can pull it off, but I can't pull it off consistently, so I'd rather forego it for the sake of the end time for this run. Because obviously losing 10 seconds but not dying is faster than saving 10 seconds but also losing a couple of minutes to a death. After this guy we have Zac 2, who I'm gonna let Zetris take over for because I kind of need to focus, but there's a DM that he does at the start that I need to dodge with a shot lock, and then I'm gonna put him into a loop. And I'll let Zetris explain that properly when we get to it.
Yee.
Another thing to note is that I really don't want to take damage here if I can avoid it, because it really helps to be full health for Zac 2. But right as I was about to say that, I took damage, obviously. But I was able to get all my health back, and I'm about to... Okay, no. Okay. All good. So yeah, to start off this fight, I'm gonna fully charge a shot lock, or as fully as possible, to get iframes, because shot locks give you iframes while you're in them, and use that to dodge his very problematic DM, and then I'm gonna put him into the loop, ideally speaking. Zetris, you can take it from here.
Yeah, so again, dodging the DM with a fully charged Flame Salvo shot lock. Then he'll be loading the Ventus D-Link, and then using combos and finishers to push him into a corner. And after every command style finisher, he'll be dashing away, letting Zac attack, and then go right back in with some combos. The loop will speak for itself once you see it.
So, unfortunately what happened there is I attacked too early, and so I couldn't start the loop properly. The start of the loop is the hardest part. I'd also like to mention while I'm in this shot lock that the reason you put him into the corner is so that he can't DM. If he's not in a corner, there's a chance he'll DM.
And again, you can see just how much more damage the multi-hit finisher is doing compared to the normal hits. That's the XP0 doing its thing.
Alright. Got him.
Nice.
I almost lost that one. I was a little bit too close to one of his attacks. Could have been pretty bad. So there is also a newer strat for that fight that involves like a completely consistent loop type thing. I've also worked on it, and again, I can't do it consistently. Another thing to note is you can attack him immediately out of the finisher, but you have to literally, like, mash it frame perfectly to stagger him, otherwise he'll brick wall and hit you with that jump dive attack. So, it's not worth doing, because if you mess it up, you die. But it does save a good chunk of time, because you can just permanently keep him in the wall, so a TAS would do that. Which, for anyone wondering, TAS stands for Tool Assisted Super Play and or Tool Assisted Speedrun, depending on who you ask. It's essentially a speedrun, or super play in the case of non-speedrun TASs, where you use an emulator and tools such as frame advance, save states, etc. to get as close as you can to what would be a frame-perfect run. And obviously, it's impossible to do in real time, or to play like a TAS in real time, pretty much. There was one game, I think it was Super Mario Bros. 2, where the real-time world record matched the TAS at some point, but I think the TAS has since been updated and is now, again, faster than the real-time record. So I guess the purpose of a TAS is to show the theoretical fastest possible time. However, there are some games where it is just straight up impossible to play like a TAS. Like, not even, you know, frame perfect inputs, whatever, like, it's actually just humanly impossible. Like, Crash Bandicoot 2, for instance, there's a thing called zigzagging, where you alternate between diagonals in order to go fast. Obviously, in a TAS, you alternate every frame, and being able to alternate between the D-pad buttons every frame, even in a 25 frames per second game, is just not humanly possible. You cannot move your thumb that fast or that precisely in between the diagonals. You could possibly get close, but not perfect. And the other thing is, I'm pretty sure in a TAS you would hit diagonals that you can't actually hit with a controller, since they would use a, like, TAS input. But that's a completely different story that I don't understand well enough to explain myself. So here we're going to see some pretty cool movement coming up in a sec. Basically, surge commands, which I don't know why I used magnet there, I wanted to slide, oh well. Surge commands, which we'll be seeing a lot of later on, but you've already seen Thunder Surge a few times, can be used to gain height if you lock onto a target above you. This is a case where the Sonic Shadow Shot lock would actually be pretty useful, but menuing it on would not be worth the time it would save, I'm relatively sure. Although I've never tested it, so maybe I should look into that. I only just thought of that, like, just then. But you can also gain height with surges by locking onto a target above you. Regular surges, you will gain a lot less height than what I'm about to do, and in the case of regular surges, you would need 3 in order to do this. But Cinderella D-Link has a surge that, for whatever reason, has different properties. And so what I'm going to do is get into this corner, lock onto that, use Enchanted Step, and there we go, I'm up there. What that skips is having to activate the console that changes the gravity, and then you would jump on some, like, floating blocks to get up. But obviously what I just did is a decent bit faster than that. It's always cool to do stuff like that in this game, since it is like a really glitch-free game. Like, there might be some stuff that's broken or overpowered, but there's not really any glitches. So whenever you see something like that, it's always really cool. Kind of the closest thing this game has to a glitch, I suppose. There is one other glitch that I will be using later on, actually, but I'll explain that when I get to it. So this is Experiment 221, or Sparky, or Pikachu, depending on who you talk to. We basically fight him the same way we fight Zac 1. Spam ignites, finish with a shot lock. He does have a DM that I can skip, but I doubt I will. I've done it twice in Crit, and a few times in Beginner. It's much easier to skip in Beginner. But in Crit, it's completely up to him. It's random. Ooh, I've been given a chance. So if I chain my ignites perfectly here, I can just keep staggering him like that. But I don't think I'm gonna get it. No. I'm gonna try for it anyway, even though I don't think it's possible. No. I got really close to gunless in a marathon, so that's nice. If I had landed one more Ignite, I would have gotten it. But, oh well, it can't be helped. So yeah, essentially, what that would have done is skip these guns. I've gotten it twice in crit, but it is very unlikely to happen. I can't believe I got that close, though. That's crazy. So yeah, you can see the basic principle of how it works from that, which is nice. I got to show off the idea behind it. Alright, so now we have the last, well, there's one more, but the last real forced unversed fight of the run. In this fight, we are going to see an enemy called Wild Bruisers, I believe. I call them the censored monkeys, and that word is censored because this is PG-13, haha. But it rhymes with hecking, so... Anyways, these guys suck. They cannot be caught in magnet. They cannot be, you know, put to sleep, I don't think. They might be able to be put to sleep, that might be a lie. They cannot be caught in magnet, and that makes them a big problem. They do, however, get staggered by just about everything, and you can stagger them out of attacks and stuff. So there is a way of dealing with them, but they're just really annoying. Because you can't use the standard magnet strategy and they can kill you really easily. So instead I'm going to be using ignites when I get to them. That's my way of killing them. And that introduces something called ignite glitch, which I'll mention if I get it, like I'll point it out. But essentially how ignite glitch works is if you ignite and then change targets as the ignite is about to hit, it'll hit both targets. It's a really cool, like, glitch, I guess you would call it. It's the only thing in this game that I would even, like, consider calling a glitch. Here, I have to hope this guy flies into a magnet or something. This crow can be kind of random and annoying. So I didn't get it there. And I can't hear because they're not both on screen. I got it there, so it's kind of weird, and it can save a bit of time in this fight, but yeah, that's ignite glitch. Only managed to get it once, and it wasn't really a good visual representation, but oh well. So I didn't die there, that's the main thing. So hopefully this will be the last shop in the run. If I'm short on money, I will have to do one more after I've had a chance to get a little bit more money. But, I mean, we'll see what happens. From this shop, I want to be able to buy 3 Thunder Surges and a Cure, and usually a Balloon Letter, but I already have one of those unless I sold it on accident. So, sell those, keep everything else. So I'm not going to have enough here, which kind of sucks. What I'm going to do is buy 2 Thunder Surges and a Cure. And then I'll have to do another menu later on to buy another Thunder Surge if I want to go fast. Just going to make sure I didn't have anything else to sell that I missed or something. I did. I'm silly. Completely forgot about potions and stuff that I had gotten as drops. I don't know how I managed to do that, but I did. So yeah, never mind, I do have enough money, but just barely. There we go. That's what that should look like. And then I'm gonna put on Sonic Impact. I don't like Sonic Impact, but it's required for movement here. Like in this world. It's really annoying for me in fights, though, so I will be taking it off as soon as I've cleared this world. Just to make the final fights more comfortable, I suppose. So, after this set of movement, which, you know, you can kind of see why Sonic Impact is necessary here, I'm going to be going into Peter Pan. Peter Pan is hands down the hardest fight in this run, definitely, you know, almost impossible to do first try. You know, everyone needs to clap and cheer and shout if I get it. Ha ha ha. But basically, I'm going to be putting him in a loop, and hopefully it works. If you pay attention to the top left-hand corner of the screen as the fight starts, the game is telling me I need to put Peter Pan in his place, and hopefully I'm going to do just that. So the idea behind this loop is keeping Ignite up constantly and hitting him into the corner to get extra damage out of the attacks. Saves about 10 seconds over just spamming Ignites. He broke out of the loop there, but I can kind of do it anywhere. It doesn't have to be in the corner, as long as I hit him the right amount of times, and there he broke out of it. So if he hits me, it's a one-hit kill, just so you're aware. But all that stuff I said about him being hard was actually not true at all. He's the easiest boss in the run by far. So yeah, you can really just dodge around and use ignites. It's not a difficult fight at all. But the loop just saves a little bit of time. Sorry, what I meant to say is PogChamp first try Peter Pan PogChamp. There we go. I think I got it right this time. I haven't been keeping a tally, but I think I've only died 2 times so far. That's pretty good. I'm happy with that. No, 3 times. 3 times. I'll take that any day. So here is the last forced on first fight in the run. I know I said the previous one was the last, but this kinda doesn't count. It's just using magnets and, you know, it's pretty uneventful. But technically speaking, this is the actual boss of this world. So, great boss fight, huh? And that's Neverland. So now, we have Terra's boss rush sequence. Terra has the most final bosses of any character, unless you count the bosses in Final and Secret Story, which Aqua has to deal with. But they're not actually in Aqua's story, so kind of different, I guess. We have Ericus, and then Vanitas and Xehanort, and then Xehanort, and then Terranort. All 4 of these bosses are honestly, in my opinion, much harder than anything you'll see in any of the other characters' runs, but especially the first and last of the set, Ericus and Terranort. Ericus is incredibly random. He can basically block whenever he wants and counterattack out of the block if he wants to. He has a bunch of different attacks, all of which will kill you really quickly. And the basic strategy is to surge as much as possible and reflect his attacks back at him. I'm not going to be talking too much throughout the fight, but I will make note of things that I'm doing as I'm doing them a little bit. But it is kind of one of the points where I need to focus at least a little bit. But before that, I will be doing the last menu of the run. So this is the deck that I'm going to be keeping in my commands for the rest of the game. And the first part of that is I'm going to meld Magnega and Blizziga with Second Chance and Once More, although not in that order. And the reason for that is so that if I get hit, I don't just die. Obviously, in, you know, a completely perfect run, you wouldn't do this because you wouldn't get hit, but that's never gonna happen in real time. And balloon letter. Alright, there we go. Oof, I'm getting hungry.
Me too.
Alright. So, Ericus, like I said, trying to reflect some of his attacks back at him and use surges as much as possible. I'm also going to be trying to, after a certain HP range, keep him to the outside of the arena, because that's going to make him less likely to DM. Whether or not he uses his DMs or desperation moves is pretty much random, but I do have some influence over it, and I will try to use that influence as much as I possibly can. So to start off with, I'm going to shotlock, because my surges aren't off cooldown, and that makes him more likely to use something that I can reflect. There he used the less favorable of the two reflectable attacks, but it's fine. And there he used the one that I want him to use. So surges are really the main thing that Terra abuses level 1 with. It's not really an abuse, they just do a lot of damage. Like, a lot more than anything else. And they also have iframes for the duration of the surge, which is obviously really nice. Another thing to note, because I have HP boosts for this fight, his counterattack isn't hitting me to 1 health. So I can get hit by it twice before second chance once more need to activate. Alright, he DM'd. His DMs are fortunately very easy to dodge. But unfortunately, he can just spam them, like he did there. You know, no downtime in between 2 DMs back-to-back. I've seen him do 5 back-to-back before, but that's obviously very unlucky. There, I got a bit of a window, so I tried to, you know, interrupt him and stop him from DMing again, but he just does what he wants a lot of the time. Wow. So what happened there was the game buffered my attack input and let it, like, made me attack after I had been hit, basically. The moment I got counterattacked, I stopped pressing X, but the game decided it was gonna be like, hey, you just input, I'm gonna keep that input and use it later, which it does sometimes, and it's always very frustrating when it happens. It's really unfortunate, but like I said, I did account for some deaths in my estimate. I never expected to go through this run deathless at all. Another thing to note is you cannot use D-Links or any command styles other than Dark Impulse in this fight. Something something storyline, Terra taken over by darkness, something something is the explanation for that. Unless, of course, you have a better explanation, Zetris.
No, I don't.
Alright. So how you know he's gonna DM is he starts running to the middle, and that's what I was talking about before with, you know, if you keep him to the edges, he's less likely to DM. Because you can sometimes, like, stagger him out of his run animation, and he won't DM if he's at the sides, really. I don't really know why that happens, it just does. And there we go, that's that fight. Unfortunate that I lost so much time because I died at the very end of the fight, but these things happen. And I am still hitting well within my estimate, so we're all good. Just have to hope Terra goes well. And Vanitas, I suppose. So, we're up to the final stretch of the run. Coming up are going to be some tornadoes in like an open field type area. Basically how they work is when you get close enough to them, they like aggro onto you and then they gradually speed up until they catch you. Now we can kind of abuse this fact by making sure we keep dashing to a new tornado, because that will kind of like de-aggro the first one and that resets the speed. So as long as we just keep going past each tornado in our path, they're not going to hit us. Other characters kind of need, well, they don't need to, but it's beneficial to use sliding dashes to speed yourself up, but you can get through it by just using their dodges. It's just a little bit more difficult. But Terra's slide at this point is so fast that you just breeze through everything. So for Vanitas, I'm going to be doing the only thing that I can do in this entire run to properly abuse level 1. I'm going to be using Peter Pan, which you may have seen in the previous run if you caught it. This boss is the only place in this speedrun where I'm actually able to do anything that abuses EXP 0. So for anyone who's been watching along being like, oh yeah, this seems pretty balanced, I don't see what's so busted about EXP 0, you're about to see what's busted about it, and see what kinds of things the other characters can do pretty much throughout the whole run. Terra can't do this because he either doesn't have anything to do it with, or the game won't let you use D-links at the points where he could. And in the case of a couple of the bosses, Sword Bill, which is the only thing he really has, just doesn't work on them. So what I need to do is I need to jump hit Vanitas while I'm in Peter Pan D-Link to try and build the D-Link gauge. It builds faster when you land aerial hits. That's like Peter Pan's gimmick, I guess. So, ideally, Xehanort doesn't join in at all, but he seems to be doing that. And ideally, Vanitas doesn't dodge everything. Okay. I got my sword bill built up. Now I need to hit him enough times to make him dive, and that's done by shot locking. So now he's gonna dive, and then I'm gonna kill him. And that's what EXP 0 can do. So as you can see, I just completely melted his health bar there. And that's EXP 0 in a nutshell. But unfortunately, I can't use it anywhere else, really, like to its full potential. It is still helping me throughout the course of the run, but that's the only time where it's like really working the way it works for everyone else. Now we use the balloon ladder to refill our D-Link gauge and go into Ventus D-Link. You may be asking, well, why don't you just use Peter Pan again? It was so broken, it should surely work here too, right? The answer to that in plain English is no, it doesn't. The reason for that is, the moment you knock Xehanort into the air, he teleports away. And the beginning of the Peter Pan, like, sword bill thing will knock him into the air. So he'll teleport away before you can actually get all of those, like, crazy number of hits out and do all the damage. So ideally what just happens there will keep happening. You actually kind of want to whiff the last hit of this finisher, for the same reason that I just explained, because he will not get knocked up by anything but the last hit. And that way I can just keep attacking him. But it can only really be done if he's against a wall, and even then the angle and stuff like that is kind of precise. There's really only one thing that I really don't ever want to see in this fight, and that's his Keyblade Storm attack, also known as Tornado. It's just really slow. Everything else I can handle and react to as necessary. And there it is there. By this point in the fight, it doesn't matter too much, but it's still slow. So now that I'm out of D-Link, I'm just going to use Surges. You can take in 2 balloon letters and go into Ventus again, but I find using the second balloon letter is generally so slow that you're better off just using Surges to finish him off. Now we have Terra. This fight is incredibly difficult, but essentially it boils down to not getting hit as much as you can, abusing the iframes of Surges, and dealing as much damage as you can safely. I'm actually going to mute for this fight, and, you know, maybe I'll unmute to chime in with certain things, but I really need to focus here. So, over to you, Zetris.
Oh, hi. So yeah, it's pretty much going to be what he just said. Reacting to everything Terra does, safely getting in the hits that he can, and not dying. There is really no, like, quick way to do this fight.
Something that I just thought I'd mention is he has 3 phases. Phases 1 and 3 are the most random. Phase 2 I can kind of control. So this is phase 2. As you can see, I'm kind of somewhat looping in. But he will break out eventually. Oh yeah, and he can heal. That's 2. Alright, this should knock him into phase 3. Alright, I'm gonna mute. I really need to focus for phase 3. This is where shit goes haywire. Okay, I beat him. And that is time. 1:28:53. I'm very happy with that.
Dude, nice.
There were at least 3 times in that fight where I was certain that I was dead.
Yeah, for sure. I saw you didn't meet on Discord, so I didn't want to say anything. I was like, oh heck.
Yeah, it's all good. So, yeah, that's Terra Crit.